The world was expecting, and it may still happen, an imminent American strike on Iran. But before that war could take shape and form, is a more immediate military conflict brewing in our neighborhood. Pakistan has declared an open war. Those are the exact words that ministers in Shehbaz Sharif's government have used on the Taliban led Afghanistan regime. Dramatic visuals have emerged of hours of military battle between the two countries, and Pakistan has now officially confirmed that its cities have come under drone attacks from Afghanistan. It is worth noting at this point that no power on the face of this earth, the Russians, the Americans included, have been actually able to defeat the Afghan people, the hardiest people in the world. Why then is Pakistan declaring an open war on them? And how did Pakistan go from being sponsors of at least sections of the Taliban to today being sworn enemies? In a moment from now, we'll be talking to strategic affairs expert Tilak Deveshar. I'm Barkha. You're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, these are the visuals that the subcontinent woke up to. A night of military battle and warfare between Pakistan and Afghanistan. The world had probably expected the headlines to be about military conflict between Israel and Iran or American strikes on Iran. Instead, it was Pakistan that declared open war on the Taliban-led government in Afghanistan. Now, remember, there was a time when the Taliban, or sections of the Taliban at least, were considered particularly close to the Pakistani deep state. How did we go from there to Pakistan and Afghanistan being sworn enemies? This should also be seen in the context, and it's an important detail, of India's recent re-engagement, or engagement, I should say, with the Taliban government. The Taliban foreign minister made a much debated and high-profile trip to India. But the Shehbaz Sharif government is declaring war. It's also getting a taste of its own medicine. Pakistan is confirming that its cities have come under drone attacks. The Taliban is not going to lie back and basically watch the Pakistanis do this to them. And to talk about what shape and form this conflict may now take, as Khawaja Asif, the man you see on your screen, declares war on Afghanistan, I want to introduce our newsmaker today. He's a man who understands the region extremely well. Tilak Deveshar, who's of course an author, a former member of the National Security Advisory Board, is with us. Thank you so much, sir. This has happened before in fits and starts. We've seen battles, skirmishes. We've probably not expected Pakistan to declare, quote unquote, an open war on Afghanistan. What do you make of this declaration from Pakistan?
Yeah, I think I am not particularly surprised, because if you step back in time just 4 years, 4 years ago, when the Taliban entered Kabul, there was rejoicing in Pakistan. Imran Khan at that time was Prime Minister, and he even said that the Afghans have broken the shackles of slavery, whatever that was supposed to mean. Now, Pakistan invested 20 years in the Taliban after 2001, when the US bombed them out of power. Pakistan invested 20 years. So when the Taliban came back into Kabul in 21, Pakistan had three strategic expectations which will take care of their interests. Number one, the Taliban would throw India out of Kabul. Number two, the Taliban would recognize the Durand Line. And number three, the Taliban would take care of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Now, within 6 months, none of these things worked out for Pakistan, and suddenly they realized that what they had invested in for 20 years was not paying any kind of dividends. India is back in Kabul at the request of the Taliban, who want us to reopen the embassy and to send their army officers for training in India. That was a huge shock for Pakistan. Second, the Taliban said there's no question of recognizing the Durand Line, because it's a line that divides brothers. And we cannot take a decision. It's for the people of Afghanistan to decide. So we are not going to recognize the Durand Line as an international border. And incidentally, in doing so, the Taliban are following every Afghan government since 1949, which has refused to accept the Durand Line. And third, the Taliban said we cannot take any action against the TTP. You see, the TTP is a very complex phenomena, because when the Taliban were being thrown out of Afghanistan, It was the Pakistan army that asked the tribals of FATA to give shelter and refuge to the Taliban. And many Taliban settled down in the federally administered tribal areas, then FATA, and looked after the Taliban and fought with them against the Americans, thanks to the Pakistan army. Today, the Taliban say that as per Pashtunwali, there is no way. We owe an obligation. We have a debt to the TTP who looked after us and fought with us shoulder to shoulder against the US. Under Pashtunwali, we cannot take any action against them. Otherwise, we'll be called Bagheerath, dishonorable people, which is the worst slur for a Pashtun. So we are not going to do that, but we can organize a ceasefire and you sort out your problems with the TTP. Get your ulemas to come and talk to them and find out what they want. They did it twice in 2021 and 2022, but it didn't work out. The demand what the TTP wanted was something that the Pakistan state was not able to do. So all these three major expectations of Pakistan came to naught. And Taliban have their own agenda, which Pakistan has not been able to resolve it and discuss it with them. So they are
How?
now upset that the
Hmm.
Taliban is filtering. You see, this is typically Pakistan externalizing their problem because such a huge Pakistan army has not been able to tackle the TTP. So they say the TTP is active because Taliban are supporting them.
Yeah. How do you explain the shift? There was a time when the Haqqani network, which has been part of the government when the Taliban took over Afghanistan. The Haqqani network was once considered a byproduct, patronized by the ISI. It was considered a byproduct of Pakistan's patronage of terrorism. Today, and you saw this image, this man, I mean, so much has changed. Imran Khan's right hand man enjoying a cup of tea as Kabul fell to the Taliban. Today, the Taliban and Pakistan sworn enemies. You've explained it very well, but do you see this as temporary? Do you see, there are those, for example, like the Afghan government ousted by the Taliban, who say no, this is a fixed match. I think it's gone well beyond a fixed match. I think this is genuine battle.
It certainly is. You see, because there is a structural problem between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Today, it's the Taliban. Even when Karzai was there, or Ghani was there, or before that, Zahir Shah was there, or the Mujahideen were there, they had this structural problem with Pakistan about the Durand Line. No Afghan, why? Since I mentioned 1949 and not 1947, 1949, the Afghan government called a Loya Jirga, which rescinded all treaties with the British, including the Durand Line Agreement. So, as far as the Afghans are concerned, there is no boundary between Pakistan and Afghanistan. So, no Afghan government will accept the Durand Line. Now, for Pakistan feels very insecure that its western borders are not being recognized by Afghanistan, just as they feel that their eastern border with India are disputed as far as Kashmir and the LOC is concerned. They feel that the western borders too are not, you know, fully determined. So
But
unless and until they resolve this basic problem, you will have skirmishes, you will have ceasefire, then again the same thing will problem. Unless and until they both tackle this basic issue. And no Afghan, not only the Pashtun, no Afghan will accept the sanctity of the Durand Line. Because
can
we
I ask
feel that
you?
these territories were forced on Afghanistan when they were weak.
Uh, I understand the Afghanistan perspective here, but can I ask you for your analysis on why Khwaja Asif, Pakistan minister, would declare open war? It's like a declaration of war, while at the same time confirming that his cities have come under drone attacks. What is Pakistan playing at here? It's not as if Pakistan is in the best position with the problem in Baluchistan. Baluchistan, of course, on which you have written a very compelling and impeccable book. But Pakistan is a mess in Baluchistan. Can it afford this conflict to be prolonged with the Taliban-led Afghanistan?
See, there are two reasons for this. One is telling their own people, look, this is so much we are doing. We've even declared war in the holy month of Ramzan against brethren, fellow Muslims. This is what we are doing. So one is an internal signal because they are not in a position to tackle either the TTP or the BLA. This macho army is
Hmm.
totally ineffective or incapable of doing it.
Hmm.
Second, it's a signal to the US. You see, here Pakistan is trying to draw in President Trump again, just as they think that he resolved the Indo-Pak conflict. Give him another shot at resolving the Afghanistan Pakistan conflict,
Hmm.
and then nominate him again for the ceasefire. And President Trump will fall into this trap. He will fall into this trap and say that I will sort it out. Last time it was Turkey and Qatar that came in and brokered a ceasefire. Then they had a series of talks, two
Hmm.
rounds in Turkey, one round in Qatar. Nothing happened. You see,
Hmm.
and one other the interesting thing during the talks was Pakistan said, "Do not allow your territory to be used by the TTP." The Taliban, in turn, put forward this demand that you don't allow your airspace to be used for attacks on Afghanistan. The reference was to the US. And
Hmm.
so the person leading the Pakistani delegation went out of the room, spoke to Islamabad, came back and said, ये हम नहीं मान सकते क्योंकि हमारी agreement है USA के साथ और वो agreement हम ना नहीं कर सकते. So
Hmm.
Taliban said, on the one hand, you are allowing your territory to be used against us, and you want that we should stop supporting the TTP. Well, what is the reasoning? So the talks, sort of broke down. So I think it
Hmm.
is these two reasons why Pakistan is saying open war, telling their own people that we are really now determined to attack Kabul, so they no longer support the TTP, and give an open invitation to President Trump to come and help mediate between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Okay, I want to take. There are a lot of questions for you in our audience stream, and I want to pick some of them up. We have Girish asking: Is Pakistan attempting to deflect pressure related to tensions involving Iran, given that the United States has reportedly amassed significant naval power in the region? Now, this is very important to mention. There are several fault lines running concurrently, sir. As you know, there is the Americans asking their staff to leave Israel, not just Iran, but also Israel, should anybody want to. There is the pressure that Pakistan is going to face if America does strike Iran. Do you find any connection here between what's happening between Pakistan and Iran? The same person goes on to say, I'll read the question again: Is Pakistan attempting to deflect pressure related to tensions involving Iran? What do you think?
You see, it could have been possible if this was the case in the past. In October, for example, the US was not hankering to go after Iran in the manner, yet Pakistan and Afghanistan were fighting. They've exchanged fire earlier too. Now, Iran, Pakistan, US, Iran will certainly complicate matters for Pakistan, will also complicate matters for Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. It is the immediate cause of why Pakistan has been attacking Kabul and vice versa.
The other question is, where do we see this conflict going? Ricky Malhotra says, considering the aggressive opening on day one, do you think this clash has the potential to turn into a long drawn war?
You see, the what Pakistan doesn't realize, or even if it does, I think Munir is not in a position to do anything about it. The real strength of Afghanistan, when they demonstrate it, will not just be drones. They have a huge number of suicide bombers. And
Hmm.
once those suicide bombers get into the urban areas of Pakistan, for example, Lahore, Faisalabad, Rawalpindi, and start attacking civilian areas or religious areas in Pakistan, Pakistan will not be able to do anything about it. Because,
Hmm.
a lone suicide bomber can be absolutely devastating. This is what the Taliban had demonstrated against the US and NATO forces. The
Hmm.
biggest damage to US and NATO came through suicide bombers. And Afghanistan has a large number of trained suicide bombers who are just waiting to get into Pakistan, and many are already in Pakistan and waiting for a signal. So Pakistan doesn't realize it has really put its hand in a nest of bees. Because once
Hmm.
this takes off, Pakistan will not be able to tackle it.
So, let me actually pick up a question from a Pakistani viewer who's watching this live. He says, Sarush Khan, 23, there are no strategic calculations except that we want the bombings to stop in Pakistan. The TTP has been pushed out of its natural enclaves in the tribal areas. Another person, this is not Pakistani, India is an Indian. I think Pakistan is searching for an excuse not to go to Gaza on Trump's order. I want you to pick up this point about the TTP. You've made it before. How do you see this? What is Pakistan's end goal here?
So, I think he makes a very valid point about the TTP. The TTP has been pushed out of the natural habitat, which was the federally administered tribal areas. They wanted that as an enclave where they could impose their version of Sharia. You see, earlier when Zardari was the president, Pakistan had agreed to that in Swat. That Swat area was given to the TTP that you can have your Nizam-e Mustafa and whatever Sharia you want, do it in that area. But then there was a pushback and the army came over and the TTP was pressed out of Swat. So, you see, what the TTP says, we learnt Islam, we learnt about jihad in Pakistani madrasas. Your ulemas taught us. That time you told us jihad was valid in Afghanistan. Why is jihad not valid today in Pakistan? Explain to us that. Now, Pakistan has not been able to explain that. So, Pakistan came up with this argument that jihad can be imposed only by a state. So, the TTP said, well, we are a state. We have a commission. There is a presidential Amirul Mumineen. We have wilayas of provinces all over Pakistan. They have 9 provinces. Apart from KPK, they have provinces in Balochistan. They have 2 provinces in Punjab. They have a province in Gilgit-Baltistan. Then we are a state and we have declared jihad against Pakistan. Now tell us what you want to. What can you? So the ulemas, Pakistan, you see, this is where the chickens have come up to roost. You train these people for jihad, for death, for killing. Now when they turn against you, because they are convinced that you are not an Islamic state. But what is Islamic about Pakistan? So they say we want to do jihad first in Pakistan. Tell us how we are wrong. And Pakistani ulema haven't come up with an answer. Pakistan army hasn't come up with an answer.
What does all of this mean for India? Not for the first time, Pakistan has tried to externalize its problems, and made the sort of predictable statements about India. But from our perspective, where we have only recently begun engaging with the Taliban government, the Taliban foreign minister, you can see those pictures, made a very high-profile visit to India. Are there any immediate concerns that cross your mind on the dimensions or the repercussions for India?
No, I don't think so. Because despite Pakistan trying to scare, create, for example, these attacks in Tajikistan, that the Taliban have attacked Tajikistan, the Taliban are doing this. Actually, the Taliban are a nationalist Afghan force. They were determined to get back Afghanistan, but they have no foreign agenda. And that's where they differ with the Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State, for example, who talk about global jihad. The Taliban have never talked about global jihad. Earlier, the TTP used to talk about global jihad under the influence of Al-Qaeda. Now they only talk about Fatah areas and the Pashtun areas and Pakistan. They don't talk about global jihad. So Pakistan tried to say that the TTP are a threat to the rest of the world, or the Taliban are a threat to the rest of the world, is not true as far as I'm quite convinced about that. They are not going to take their brand of Islam outside and try and spread it to other parts of the world.
Let me ask you in the end then, you said, and I found that thought quite interesting, that maybe this is an effort to draw Trump in. Trump now says, hey, I ended the war between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which is why Khawaja Asif might be using the nomenclature of war. How do you see this ending? The last time battle lines were drawn in this way, you had countries from the Gulf get involved, right? How do you see this resolving itself this time?
One liner is that it will not end well for Pakistan.
Explain.
Because, Pakistan should know the Afghans more than anybody else. The Afghans have been fighting since the time of Alexander. They will not allow any foreign influence. And if Pakistan thinks that because they supported them for 20 years, that they can have influence over Taliban or try and dictate to Taliban, they are so mistaken. Taliban will be a friend, can be, brothers and, Islamic brothers, but they will not allow Pakistan to interfere with them. And therefore, they have, what does Pakistan has got everything to lose? How much do the Afghans or the Taliban have to lose? Very little. when Pakistan goes and bombs, the pictures that you see are of broken mud huts
Yeah.
and poor families living over there. There is nothing that Pakistan can do to destroy Afghanistan, whereas Afghans can cause serious damage. You see, one of the weapons which Afghanistan has not done so far is to withhold the water of the Kabul River.
Hmm.
Pakistan has taken the entire water of the Kabul River, about 17 million acre feet, as its own.
Hmm.
If Afghanistan was to build a couple of dams on the Kunar Kabul River and save or store about 5 to 6 million acre feet of water, agriculture in Pakistan's Punjab will be seriously damaged. And at a time when India has held a treaty in abeyance, Indus Water
Yeah.
Treaty, and we are trying to make sure that we keep our share of the Indus Water Treaty, about 36 million acre feet of water, it will squeeze, doubly squeeze Pakistan. So will not end well for Pakistan. I mean, we can talk about it 6 months to a year down the road, and you will see that it won't have ended well for Pakistan.
Well, it is a fascinating conflict, one that has preempted, the situation in Iran, because that's the war the world was on standby for, and instead this conflict has erupted. I said in my opening something that you have said so much more eloquently, Mr. Deveshwar, that the Afghans have not been conquered by any force, any superpower. Even the Americans learned the price of that in the manner that they had to retreat. So, as you said, this will not end well for Pakistan, and so it is mystifying why Khawaja Asif would declare an open war unless, as Tilak Deveshwar says, it's one more chance to suck up to Trump and get him to say or claim that he ended this war too. Thank you, sir. We hope to talk to you again as we wait and see how this battle unfolds. Always a pleasure. Always learn so much from you. Take care and see
Thank
you
you,
soon.
Barkha.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Barkha. Thank you for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Always a
Thank you
pleasure,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent